Spartans, Hawkeyes, what is at stake for each team, and can Michigan State get that Big Ten title they were looking for? Let's go.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Today's crossover episode is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay with us for the Armada Team of the Week later this episode. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Hawkeye Nation, how on earth are we all doing? What's up, everyone? It's Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans, and hey, old friend, what's up, man? How we doing over there?
It's going well. Basketball season, at least men's basketball, has not gone very well for us, and then perhaps of an era. Very well could be the final game, not just for the seniors, Peyton Sanford and the like, but very well could be the end of Fran McCaffrey. I know we're going to talk about that plenty here today, but it's a matchup that's always fun. There's been some memorable games in the past, and maybe we'll go down memory lane a little bit. But you guys have your sights set on some bigger things than just a regular season matchup.
We do, and for full transparency, we're recording before this Michigan-Maryland game, so hopefully the Terrapins can already, clinch that share of a Big Ten title for us, Michigan State Spartans. But regardless, whether Michigan State's playing for a share of the title, whether they're playing for the outright title, there's many stakes that are plainly obvious for Michigan State right now. But let's start with your Hawkeyes right now, because it's in the balance right now whether you'll make the Big Ten tournament. Of course, the last three teams in the standings, they get left out. Is it easy as that, or is there something else that's at stake here for Iowa?
Yeah, I think in the simplest terms, it's that. And the crazy thing is, Iowa could pull the upset against Michigan State. You think that just an absolute monster win for the program, do it on senior day, pull this big upset, and yet still not qualify for the Big Ten tournament. Yeah, right. That's still the way that it sets. It's really going to come down to what happens on Sunday in their finale over in Lincoln against the Huskers, and we know how good they are over at Pinnacle Bank. So it's crazy in this tight race at the bottom and teams jockeying, trying to get into the position. A win against Michigan State gets them absolutely nothing. They'd still have to win again. But here's the other crazy part. If they'd pull the double shocker and win both of these games, they get all the way up to the 11th seed in the Big Ten tournament.
Crazy.
So it goes from a win against Michigan State means nothing to a win against Michigan State and Nebraska gets them all the way up to the 11th.
So you mentioned it right at the top that, hey, this could be Fran's last game. It's not just, Peyton Sanford's end of his career after 12 years at Iowa, but Fran McCaffrey. I almost said Kirk Ferentz. No, he's never leaving. Fran McCaffrey, do you think, gut feeling, it is his final game in Iowa City?
Yeah, from everything that I've heard, everybody that I've talked to, that feels to be the prevailing notion. And, we embark on this new era of college athletics. It's going to cost money, but the Iowa buyout, it's funny because we're Iowans, we're thrifty. We hear these money totals and people freak out and they go crazy. His buyout is $4.2 million. In college athletics, that's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. When you see tens of millions of dollars being bought out, and not just to places with the Big Ten money, like a place like Iowa, but places that don't have that financial backing behind them. Yes, you're going to have to buy a new coach. Darren DeVries is, I think, the apple of many people's eye after 1 year at West Virginia, the former Drake coach and a longtime assistant at Creighton. His brother was an All-American football player at Iowa. He played basketball at UNI, a guy that a lot of people know in the state, and I think would make a whole lot of sense. Plus his son, potential All-American, redshirted this year with an injury and has another year of eligibility next year. So bring him back home for one final year. But back to Fran McCaffrey, that is the thought that this is going to be it. And it's crazy. And I kind of want to get your perspective on this. Fran McCaffrey, I've been a supporter. I've been a fan. It's brought entertaining basketball back to Iowa over the last 15 years. High pace, up and down the floor. Yeah, the defense stinks, but we've got Iowa back to respectability, something that didn't happen in the Todd Licklider era, and the era before that was Steve Alford. He brought them back to the level that they were in the 90s. A consistent winner, Michigan and Iowa, the only two teams over the last 11 years that have finished in the top half 10 of those 11 years. So It shows you the consistency that has been there, but they haven't broken through. There's been no Sweet 16. And because of that, that's where the angst comes. What do you think of the Iowa basketball program, just kind of as a whole, the McCaffrey era? What comes to you, Matt?
I'm going to echo a lot of what you're saying, because is it time to move on? Probably. Like, just from the outside looking in, there seems to be a staleness in the program, and you're just kind of stuck in this purgatory of, well, you're not terrible. And of course, the season hasn't gone the way you've wanted it to so far, but more times than not, you are in that middle pack, if not above average. But what about, like, what does that get you really at the end of the day? Where is that next step? Will it ever come under Fran? So it's almost maybe it's too distant of a parallel here, but maybe later stage Mark D'Antonio for football for Michigan State, where yes, he did do great things, and yes, he reached really good heights here. But near the end, you're kind of just floating around like these middling seasons, wondering, okay, is it time to get off the bus here? Are we going to flip the page to the next thing? So I think maybe it's time for, a nice refresh at Iowa. Yes, it can get worse, but hey, it could always get better too. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm stuck in the middle here of both acknowledging that, yes, Fran has been solid for Iowa, but let's freshen up the sheets here. Come on.
Well, and for people that are watching on YouTube, you can see an empty Carver-Hawkeye arena, and that's what it's going to be like Thursday night. The fan base is checked out. And it's I believe it's unfair to Fran McCaffrey. Does he deserve a better ending than the way that's likely going to end with a firing at the end of the season? He does when you look at the totality of it, but the fan base checked out. And they missed a huge opportunity with Luka Garza and what he was doing. But that final season of Garza, the buildings weren't full. We were at limited capacity. People weren't able to get out, fall in love with that team. They make a run. Then the following year, they win the Big Ten tournament. They get a number 5 seed and underseeded at that, but they win that Big Ten tournament, and then they get beat by Richmond in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So whenever there's been opportunities for momentum, they just haven't been able to capitalize. It's time for a fresh start. That's where we are with this. And we can argue about the merits, and it should be better for Fran, but this is the reality. When you're having, and we're talking about not actual tickets sold, but actual attendance, tickets scanned, the building's a third full. There was a Big Ten game earlier this year against Minnesota where the scan was under 3,000 in a building that seats 15,000. That shows you where this fan base is. And for longtime Big Ten fans, for our older fans that remember Carver-Hawkeye rocking, I think you're going to be eye-open when you're watching the game on Thursday night.
I think I will too, because I am accustomed to seeing that be a pretty hostile atmosphere, especially when Michigan State comes to town. For some reason, a lot of people don't like our Spartans here, but
because Todd Izzo tries to tell us who we should and shouldn't fire. He wanted to keep Todd Licklider around,
he's good at that.
And he just did it again this week with Fran. Hey, Izzo, knock it off. You're not going to control who we keep around for you to beat up, though. The crazy thing is, I was won 5 out of 6 in this series.
Yeah, isn't that nuts? And we're going to get to that story game that happened a few years ago. Actually, screw it. What am I doing? Let's just get to it right now, because, right now, Michigan State on FanDuel, they're 6.5-point favorites. Okay, Torvik is mirroring that. Ken Pom has a very similar number out there. And Michigan State's rolling 5 straight. They keep beating top 20 teams. There should be no reason to be scared. But Trent, here I am, just being the biggest coward of all time, because this is what I turn into in March. Why am I scared right now? You just answered the question for me here. Is it because you guys are good at shooting threes, which you are? You are top 25 in the nation. Is it because this is the last game at Carver of the season, the last call for a feel-good moment, both for Fran and for these players? Is it because, I'm permanently scarred from that one Iowa game when we were up 10 points with about 43 seconds left? I guess, why am I not going to sleep well tonight? Just answer that for me. I
think you nailed each and every reason for it. Yeah, the 112-106 comeback victory. I'm sure that
still bothers me.
Of many people as Fran stared down the official at the end. And it was a good memory for us here, but certainly not on that part. Yeah, Iowa can score. And it's college basketball. You know this. We saw it in our state just a week and a half ago. Iowa State was playing really well. They go down to a terrible Oklahoma State team, and they get beat. It happens in college basketball. The way Iowa can shoot it, Sanford playing his final game, Evan Bronze, he's a guy that's come on here lately, an Iowa City kid that started his career at Belmont, came back to Iowa City. He's been playing well. It's senior day. Goofy things happen. College basketball, goofy things happen. Everything tells us analytically, just our eyeballs, that Michigan State should win this thing convincingly, but it's college hoops, so you can just sit there and angst before tip-off.
I always go back to this Indiana game that just happened this year for Michigan State. Okay, we're 12-point favorites. If they win, Tom Izzo unseats Bob Knight as the all-time winningest coach in the Big Ten. How could things go wrong? And oh my God, did they go wrong that night, Trent? So just when you think everything's going smooth, here comes a giant hammer for you. I'm sorry to project my crippling anxiety on the rest of the Michigan State fans, but the story. MSU's hot. They play good defense. Iowa, strong offense, not so good at defense. MSU should win this game, but that's life in college basketball. We'll flip the script here in a hot second. Trent's going to grill me about Michigan State, but first need to talk everyone's ears off about Nissan. The Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our Locked On College basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart. From top-seeded starts to the unexpected upsets, these guys showcase the strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. Like, my goodness gracious, like this Team of the Week, the Houston Cougars. Since joining the Big 12 last season, the Cougars have gone a combined 33-4 in conference games, winning the regular season title by multiple games both years. Now, when it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer. That's exactly what the Houston Cougars have done here. It's clear that our Team of the Week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of Nissan's outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, what do you want to know about our red hot Spartans? And God, I hope they stay red hot. Just don't make this last weekend dramatic, guys. Sorry, I'll stop.
I understand. You got Sunday looking ahead, and maybe that's another angle, that look ahead factor that you kind of worry about from the Michigan State perspective. I think there are a lot of things that just in general kind of concern you about this matchup with them. Mm-hmm. I want to start, though, kind of big picture. And coming into the year, all right, Michigan State's going to be good. Okay, Michigan State's always good. What's different? And that's my question now, because I see this team. They've had a successful year, regular season championship, very attainable for them. What is different with this Michigan State team? What can be different when we get to the NCAA tournament?
What's different is more of the same that we've known from the old Tom Izzo teams. You know, the defending, okay? They're really strong defensively. Top 15 in adjusted efficiency. They're holding, I think it's 6 teams under 70 points straight right now. They are holding teams ice cold from behind the arc, okay? Like, that's a staple of Michigan State basketball. Another one, rebounding. You want to look at rebounding percentages? Michigan State is top 20, both offensive and defensive. Jackson Kohler, the guy that's spearheading all of that. And they've only been out-rebounded in 2 games so far this season. So it is defending, it's rebounding, and it is running. All right, we have really strong guards. Jeremy Fears, he likes to push the pace. You got Jace Richardson, who's come along late. Jaden Akins, who, please, Jaden, I know you've been slumping for the 8 games before last one, but he caught fire in the first half against Wisconsin. If you can keep that going, combine that with Trey Holloman, the best guy from 55 feet away from the hoop in the conference. Hey, you know what? Like, that's a real strong guard quartet that you have going into March. And overall, too, the culture. Like, I'm sorry to just, paint to something so cliche sometimes, but this is a zero ego team, right? Like, this is a deep team. Everyone shares the ball and everyone acts like it too. So that is a far cry from what we've had the last few years here. It is a total buy-in to the DNA of Michigan State basketball. So that is what it's been. So the new thing is that we're doing it throwback, baby. It's the best. I love
it. So incredibly deep. Get that. And you can see certainly the depth of this one. The reason that I continue to say, and I bought a couple of future tickets over at FanDuel on the Spartans to make a Final Four and the like, is because of one guy and a difference maker in Jace Richardson. Now, I know I've caught him just a couple of times and the consistency still isn't there, but during this winning streak, going back really to that win against Oregon, he's been playing at such a high level. Is it sustainable, though? Is this going to be, in your opinion, the Jace Richardson we're going to see for the rest of the season?
I keep wondering when it's not going to be sustainable, quite honestly. And yes, it hasn't, been uber consistent, but even his bad games, he's still producing. And it's not just in the scoring. It's also he has strong defense, really good vision of the game too. Knows when to get rid of the ball when it's time. So I think that, yes, this actually can be sustained. I mean, I don't think this winning streak started with him thrown in the starting lineup just out of sheer coincidence. He's a 3-level scorer that Michigan State has been not starved for, but really could have used during that rough patch of the season. He could do it from 3 at 39%. He cuts to the lane and finishes better than any underclassman that I've seen recently in college basketball. So, yeah, he's the total package. So I think it can be sustained. It is wonderful. And also, and I keep saying this on Locked On Spartans, puzzling how he was only a 4-star kid.
Yeah.
Who on earth kept him off the 5-star sheet? We'll never know, but hey, good on them for throwing that hot take out there.
Yeah. And, a guy with those kind of bloodlines on top of it, you think that's
kidding.
A little bit more of a bump.
Right, it's not like his mom's a librarian and his dad's a farmer somewhere. No, that is NBA star Jason Richardson's kid out there. He knows what it takes. So I've yelled about that many a times on Locked On Spartans.
What this team is 24-5, regular season title, very much in front of them. They're going to be a high seed in the NCAA tournament, potentially a 2, maybe run the table and could still get to the one line. What is the kryptonite, though? What is the concern that you still look at and say, this is going to, what has been a very memorable season, going to upend things earlier than anybody wants?
Yeah, I'm sorry to sound like a broken record for all my Locked On Spartans listeners, but we've been bemoaning the three-point shooting percentage all season because something very strange has been happening over here. We're really good at free throw shooting, like top 10 good, like scraping 80%. And usually, if you're a good free throw shooting team, you're at least decent, should be very above average in three-point shooting, but they are, I don't even think in the top 330 nationally right now. They are dead last in the Big Ten. So at the start of the season, first few months, we're waiting for the three-point shooting to catch up, for some guys that are statistically really solid shooters to break out of their slumps. But we're, 28 games into the season right now? Like, the sample size has grown big enough to just understand that maybe we're just not a three-point shooting team. But it's still weird because this is still one of Izzo's highest-scoring teams of all time. So he has his worst three-point shooting team, but still generating, I think it's like the third or second most points per game on average in his tenure here. Nothing about this makes sense from a number standpoint. So what can sink this team? Might be three-point shooting, because we've also seen that in years past. I always reference Iowa State from last year. Really good defensively, find a way to win a lot of games, but they got undone by their poor three-point shooting in the Sweet 16, losing by one possession against Illinois, and that was a theme that was constant with them all season long.
So I remember a really good free throw shooting team that made their way into Carver-Hawkeye Arena. AJ Holgard missed a couple. Iowa came back and won that game. I don't know if you remember it.
No, I don't think so.
No. 112-106. Okay. That's the last time. All right.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
One more for you on this front. And it's more kind of a big picture thing. We talk about the regular season title for Michigan State. Iowa has not had one of those in my life. 1979, I was born in 1980. So that shows you I'm an old man and I've never seen one of those before. But for somebody that has lived it, been there a bunch, what does a regular season title mean? Because I know for so many fan bases, it's only what happens in the NCAA tournament.
Of course.
How do you look at a regular season title?
Right at the start of the season, I said this will be defined whether they get a banner or not. And I listed that as Final Four banner, Big Ten regular season banner, and said I could talk myself into a Big Ten tournament banner. So that's probably the order I would put it in without question. But I think there's an extra specialness added onto this one just because of how kind of rocky the last few years have been in East Lansing. I mean, crawling to the tournament on the bubble the last 3 years, not getting one of the top seeds in the Big Ten tournament more years than not the last 3 years. I just think that rolling the clock back, having everyone buy into the culture, everyone being just so selfless, I think just adds a little star next to this banner should they lift it up. So yes, we've seen it. It's awesome every time it happens, but just the fact that Izzo started last offseason saying, I'm going to get back to being a top-tier program or die trying, and then actually, oh my God, doing it after some people doubted him. Never on this show, Trent. No, come on. You want to get Shimon Sapala as your big man from Lawnwood? Of course we love that move. But no, he's looked the naysayers dead in the eye and said, I'm still Tom F. and Izzo, and I'm going to do it my way, and we're putting another banner up in East Lansing. So this would be just up there with one of the better ones that we've seen here, at least from my opinion.
So taking this another step further, and the Big Ten as a whole this year, do you believe that Michigan State's battle tested? We've talked about this on my radio program a lot with the ACC and the questions about Duke. Are they battle tested? Are we having the same kind of conversation we have with Gonzaga a lot of years? When you look at Michigan State, obviously they always challenge themselves in the non-conference, but through the rigors of the Big Ten, how do you see this league as a whole and how ready they are when they're going up in the Sweet 16 against a Texas Tech team coming out of the Big 12 or facing one of these behemoths out of the SEC? Are they tested playing this Big Ten schedule?
I think so, because it's not just the win streak they're on, but what has happened within that win streak. Like, you're down 16 points at Illinois in the first half. They come back and win that game by double digits. Purdue, they're up, I think it was 8 or 9 points in the first half. Michigan, they go on an 18-0 run or whatever it was to take an 11-point lead in the first half. Wisconsin, that was a total rock fight between two teams. You want a rockier rock fight? The Maryland game, for example. So this win streak has been fun, but it has also been fascinating and almost reassuring to just see what they have done within these games to dig themselves out of holes. Because there's nothing better than overcoming adversity, especially self-inflicted adversity. And sometimes, sure, it was just the other team was playing really good, but other times, well, Michigan State's going on these scoring droughts, and do they want to score the rest of the game? And well, sure enough, they rally and they find a way to do it. So it's a great question. Big Ten, this isn't the strongest year you've seen from them, but just the way that Michigan State has done it within these games in the win streak, I'm confident. Like, I do think that this team is a battle-tested squad.
We got Matt and Trent with you. Crossover edition, Locked On Spartans and Locked On Hawkeyes talking hoops. I want to talk one more thing. We're going to get into some football. I don't think you want to talk about the Big Ten wrestling tournament coming up this weekend. I'm not going to.
Not necessarily. Right. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Me and Seiko with Penn State, we did a crossover on that one. I figure you probably didn't need to be involved there. But there is a potential we're going to see Michigan State Iowa rematch in women's basketball at the Big Ten tournament. So we'll get a quick thought on that. A lot of football talk, little basketball as we continue. Crossover edition, Locked On Hawkeyes and Locked On Spartans. All right, back with you one final time on a crossover edition. Trent and Matt with you. You can find Matt at Sheehan Sports. You can find me at Trent Condon. All right, let's get into it. We're going to talk some football. Let's talk some women's basketball, though. Iowa, we knew it was going to be a different year, obviously, for this women's basketball team. No Caitlin. But to come back, they had a 5-game losing streak in there, let a lot of leads slip away during that losing streak. Earlier this year, had a loss against Michigan State, another one that they blew a fourth quarter lead out there in East Lansing. As long as Iowa holds on Wednesday night and beats Wisconsin, we'll get a rematch there. For the Hawkeye fans listening, how are the Michigan State women playing here down the stretch?
Solid overall, and they really almost got a really good one a few weeks ago at UCLA. Now, sure, was UCLA missing first-team All-American? That's neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned, but that was a rocky finish. They really let rebounding get away from them late in that game. But overall, it's been another strong year for Robin Fralick in the second year. They're one of the highest-scoring offenses in the Big Ten, and that's true to her DNA that she's shown at her previous stops. So, could this be another game, Michigan State, Iowa, where it's like a first team to 70, dare I say, like high 70s? Absolutely, it could be. So it's good to see the program is still healthy over here in East Lansing. Iowa, though, like you still like your trajectory Iowa's going on, even, obviously with the absence of Caitlin Clark, how could you even replace her? But is this still a good program, and like trajectory-wise, I should say, for Iowa?
Yeah, they're recruiting at an incredibly high level. They got a really good recruiting class coming in next year in the class of 2026. They had the who's who of women's basketball coming in earlier when they retired Caitlin Clark's jersey and that upset victory that they got against Juju Watkins and USC. Yeah. They were all there. I think there were 6 top 10 prospects in the class of 26 and 27 that were on campus. So now you got to finish it, right? You got to maintain the momentum. You got to continue there. And there's a lot of people that believe, as we open up our conversation about the men's program, NIL funds, there have been a lot that have been diverted, and a lot of people that are saying, yes, I will donate to the Swarm Collective, but I will do that for women's basketball as opposed to men. Well, the money's there. Okay. Now it's up to the new head coach, Jan Jensen, to capitalize and finish it off. But yeah, the future does look really bright, capitalizing on these last couple of years, the Final Four championship game appearances in back-to-back seasons, and just kind of continuing this momentum. That's why I think it's important for Iowa, to get in the tournament, win a game, maybe even win 2 with the right path, because you can continue that momentum. And look, you're not obviously UConn, you're not South Carolina, you're not even Tennessee, but in order to get there, you got to have a starting point. You got the starting point. We'll see if the women can capitalize on it.
And let's look to football really quick. We're not going to spend, a ton of time on this, but our teams do meet up in November, and we met up last year. Yeah. Michigan State looked outstanding, and then when both teams left, one of them finished the season at 4-1, defiantly went to a bowl game, and the other one just stumbled to 1-4. I cannot believe that's how things went after our meeting there, because Michigan State looks so good, and I've said it on Locked On Spartans, like, as fun of a win as that was, I'm almost like as annoyed by it, because where the hell did that team go after the game? Whatever. Oh my God.
That game is still so befuddling, and it was because Iowa didn't tackle. Iowa football. You've watched Iowa football. Right? They missed 19 tackles in that game.
Insane.
They don't do that in a whole month, and they missed 19 tackles in that game. It was so un-Iowa-like, and then on top of it, the offense actually looked good there in parts of the second half as they came back and made it a football game. That was as un-Iowa football-like of any game. So if you're sitting here in the offseason, and we're all going to do it, right? We're going to W and L. If you're a Spartan fan, you say, well, we got them last year. That Iowa team, I don't know who was inside those uniforms but it wasn't Iowa. The one that you're going to see, I'm anticipating in 2025 is going to look a whole lot different, even if new faces out there for the Iowa Hawkeyes.
So new faces, obviously we went through one transfer portal cycle. Mm-hmm. Or is the elevator going up for Iowa football? We going down? We staying pat? What's just the quick skinny on Iowa football after the transfer cycle?
Iowa a year ago had the schedule to make an incredibly deep run, and that was the year to do it. You had Ohio State, but outside of that, it was incredibly manageable. You brought back 19 starters. It was a huge disappointment, but we saw improvement in the offense and certainly in the running game. Caleb Johnson departs, but they feel good about the direction that they're going. I think this offense is going to be good. A lot of new faces defensively. You have to believe, though, in Phil Parker. It's going to be a different look, and I think the schedule is going to be much too difficult for them to make a deep run. But is Iowa going to go 8-4, 7-5 again next season? Yeah, probably. Okay. How about the trajectory of the Spartans, though, when we look at them after a disappointing end, but you're number one of a new regime, Jonathan Smith. A lot of buzz I know about that program.
Yeah, disappointing end to the season, without question. But you know what? Once you get a moment of clarity, you realize, okay, yes, this is year one of a rebuild. They did have some massive depth issues that they had to start cutting into, starting in September. So as we go into the offseason, my two conclusions are on each side of the ball here. One, on paper, the offense has gotten better. Your offensive line is deeper. You got two good transfers. You also kept Nick Marsh, a stud wide receiver. Aiden Childs, he's back, and he has to grow. And I think that he did show some growth in his sophomore season. So on paper, yes, I think the offense really has no excuses to at least be average, if not above average. I'm not saying they're going to drop 53 a game here. I'm saying that we're going to score more than 20, which is going to be a different thing here in East Lansing. Now, my other conclusion that I have for the defensive side of the ball is I have no conclusion, Trent, because our pass rush was abysmal last year. We were decent at stopping the run, but we also just lost our top two cornerbacks, Ed Woods, Chuck Brantley. One ran out of eligibility, the other one off to Miami. We got in a lot of FCS or UConn level transfers for the secondary right now that really produced at a high level at those smaller schools. Will it translate to Big Ten play? If anyone has an answer out there, I would be dying to know, because we've seen it work. We've also seen it not work, but that's going to be the bulk of the secondary, is guys that had strong seasons at Eastern Illinois, for example, Texas State, trying to do it over here at a bigger level. All right. And then we've also lost quite a bit of linebackers here. They were key in stopping the run. So I hate to be so indecisive, because we're podcasters. We're supposed to be confident about our teams and stand on what we say, but I don't know. We got a lot of transfer defensive ends that are either young up and coming from a Mountain West school like Air Force, or a guy from Wisconsin, former 4-star. One problem, hasn't played a single snap yet in his career. So could he be good? Yeah. Will he be? I don't know. So we'll check in mid-November when we talk about the preview for our upcoming game, and I'll have a clear answer for you there. So that's where I'm at, Trent. I'm defiant about one side of the ball, but the other side, maybe. Yeah,
maybe. A lot of maybe.
It could work.
Understand that. Yeah. A lot of baby. We got a lot of baby. We got Mark Gradowski from South Dakota State. That is our new quarterback. There's excitement about him.
Yeah.
As soon as we get it, less than a week later, though, it's announced, he's going to miss spring football. He's got to have shoulder surgery.
Fun.
Yeah, quarterback play for Iowa. So that's what we're dealing with here. It never ends, certainly. What we do know is I'm going to be rooting for Sparty come NCAA tournament time. Not on Thursday night, but I will be for that one. Tom Izzo, as much as he annoys me, and he does, he really does annoy me at times, and certainly
I get it. Yeah.
When he's sticking his nose in there and sticking up for coaches that he doesn't know the background on.
Yeah.
But that aside, a lot of respect. I would love to see one final run at a guy that definitely deserves it. Let's get to the Final Four. How about this? Can we win a national championship so we can shut up the other conferences about the lack of a conference or a national championship or last quarter century? Come on. You guys are our last hope.
I'll find a way. I'll try my best. I will. God, I would love nothing more. I would pay out of pocket for that. A lot more than I ever should too, but I would love to see it. I would love to see it. Not as much as I'd love seeing your face though, Trent. It's always a good time doing these crossover episodes. Guys, that's Trent Condon, Locked On Hawkeyes. Matt Sheehan over here, Locked On Spartans. Whatever happens in this game, whether MSU has a banner or they got to wait till Sunday to hopefully win it, I don't know. But yeah, we'll talk about it here on Locked On Spartans. Trent will talk it over there at Locked On Hawkeyes. Until then, guys, take care of yourselves. Go green. And Iowa, hey, love you guys too.
Go Hawks.